I've been asked to do some instructional videos for all the leaves, and the best way I thought I could do this would be to do a recap every single month at the end of the month of the leaves that I stitched. Now, it's not guaranteed that I'm going to be able to do it every single month on time, but I'm going to try to do a video that explains how I stitched that particular leaf each week. I'm going to use this piece of linen to do the videos, the recap videos each month. I've already stitched the leaf on my tree, but I'm going to do a second leaf on this linen, and this is what I'll do to demo what I do each month. So what I've got here, just to show you, the Eleganza Pearl Cotton, it's EZM 15. This is what I used for week number 1. And I also wanted to share with you the wool threads that I used to stitch all the leaves down. Now I just gathered all of my Alana wool threads. This is what I used to stitch my wool applique in place. So if you're gonna stitch along with me, I would gather a bunch of different greens for this project and have them ready for the different leaf colors. I also used, in particular this month, a Milliner's 3 needle and a Chenille 24 needle because I am using a size 8 pearl cotton this week. And the great thing about these spools of Eleganza Pearl Cotton, these are Suspargo colors, the color of the spool matches the tube of the size needle that matches the size thread. So keep that in mind. This is week number 1, and I'm just going to show you the leaf on my project, but I won't always be able to do that because I'll have other leaves that I may not be ready to show you. But this is what we're going to stitch. We're going to stitch a closed fly stitch down the center of this little accent. We're going to do some French knots, and then we're also going to finish it off with some bullion knots, which I will do a demonstration for you. I've got my Eleganza Pearl Cotton. This is EZM 15. It is called Hummingbird, and you can get this color on my website. And I'm just going to stitch down the center here, and if you noticed, I'm a left-handed stitcher. If you are a right-handed stitcher, you should be able to follow along because we're doing a vertical closed fly stitch. So I'm going to stitch on this a little bit, and I probably won't talk through the video, and I'll probably speed it up when I get into it, and then we'll move on to the next. So I finished the fly stitch, and now I'm going to use my Milliner's 3 needle with the same thread, and I'm going to do French knots at the end of each of these little points on the fly stitch. So I'm going to take, and I'm doing this in the background close to this little applique here, but in the background piece. So I'm going to come up to the top. I'm going to do 2 wraps. You could do 3 if you want them bigger, but I'm just going to do 2 wraps. And it makes a little French knot, so I'll do this again. And when you do your French knots, you want to make sure that you don't go back down in the exact same hole as you came up from the back of your work. Otherwise, you'll pull the knot through. So I'm going to go ahead and I will work all the way around, and then we'll do the bullion knot. Okay, I just realized that on my other piece, I stitched French knots just all the way around the outside, not just at the point. So I went ahead and added some more French knots onto this. Now I'm going to work my way around and do bullion knots around the edge. And usually when we talk about stitching on the edge or around something, we're talking about in the background, unless the instructions specifically say go ahead and stitch on top of the applique. So right now I'm going to stitch some bullion knots. I'm left-handed, so I'm going to be stitching in a clockwise manner. If you're right-handed, you might be stitching in this direction. Stitch whichever direction feels comfortable to you. So I'm going to come up to the front of my work close to the applique. And I do have a YouTube video on the bullion knot if you want to take a look at that. I'm going to come up to the top. I'm going to take a little bite. I'm going to come out right next to my emerging thread. And I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what I'm doing is I want to do enough wraps to cover this area right here. So the amount of wraps are going to get folded on top of this stitch right here. So if I'm not sure I'm doing enough, so it looks great, you might want to wrap 1 or 2 more times. And once you do a lot of these, you kind of know what your number of wraps are when you're doing this stitch. So I'm going to pull it through here, and you notice I'm holding my thumb over my stitches until I can't pull it any farther, and just using my thumb, and I'm tightening the little knot here, just like that. And that makes a bullion knot. Now you're not finished until you take your needle to the back of your work, because you need to anchor the stitch. So I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to do the next one right here. Just like that. We'll do an extra one. Okay. I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to anchor my stitch down. Okay. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to work all the way around. Do it one more time. So this is where my audio failed me and the microphone wasn't working. So I'm going to have to do a voiceover. So we're looking at week number 2, This is a leaf that is just stitched with no cotton overlay or anything. Now we're going to stitch a back stitch inner leaf, and you can see that right here where we stitched around. I just drew it with a pen. Then we're going to do some fly stitches, and we're going to finish it up with some French knots. So let's take a look at that. Now I use a blue water erase pen to mark my wool where I can. I like these pens because they are easy to erase, easy to mark on, and one side is the pen, the other side is the water, and it's just one of my favorites. So here you can see I'm going to trace the inside of my leaf. So I'll make an inner leaf on the inside here, and it's kind of hard to see, but you can see it much better in person. But I'm just going to keep tracing here, and then I'll talk to you about the next part. And here I'm just showing you how you can erase if you don't like something. You just use the eraser end, and then you can remark it. I think that looks a little bit better. There you go. Okay, so I'm using the chenille 24 needle, and I'm using the EZM 21 pearl cotton from Sue Spargo. This is one of my favorite colors. And I'm going to do a back stitch around this shape, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, let's start the fly stitch. I've come up to the front of my work from the linen background, and I'm going to work clockwise because that's how I like to stitch. Right-handed stitchers might do counterclockwise. Do what feels comfortable. I'm going to take a little bite here at an angle, and I've got my working thread behind my needle, and I'm going to pull my needle through. Makes a little V. And then you're going to take your needle to the back of your work. I did it really close to the back stitches. And so then I'm going to do the next one, and I'm going to work all the way around until I come to the other side where I can close up all the fly stitches. Okay, so we are going to do the French knots now down the center of the leaf. And I'm using Easy 17. Here you see it in a ball. It's called Lion's Mane, but also it comes in a Sue Spargo spool, same name, same number. But I have it in a ball, so we're going to use that. So we're going to do a row of French knots. I'm using my Milliner's 3 needle, and we're going to stitch a few of those up the top. So bear with me with this voiceover. So we're going to come up to the top of our work, and we're going to do some French knots. And I think I'm wrapping, I wrapped 2 times. Oh, I wrapped 3 times to make a bigger French knot. And I'm going to do that all the way to the top. And what I'll do is I'll speed up the video so you don't have to watch all that. Okay, let's take a look at week number 3. Here is the leaf, and we're going to do a rosette chain stitch around the leaf, and we're going to do a twisted fly stitch down the center, and we'll couch those down with a different color thread. So let's take a look at what we're going to do. So we're going to do the rosette chain stitch first around the leaf. I'm going to use Easy M11. I think it's fresh cut grass. If you notice, I'm using a bigger thread, a size 5, and I'm using a size 18 chenille needle. Okay, so we're going to take our needle to the front of our work to make this rosette chain stitch. So I've got my needle, I'm coming up to the top, and you will see that I'm going to work clockwise again. You might want to do counterclockwise. I'm going to take a little bite here. I'm going to leave my needle in the fabric. Now I'm going to wrap front to back. If you notice, it's over the top of the needle and around, or counterclockwise if you're holding your needle straight up in the air. But we're going to wrap it front to back. If you don't do it correctly, you'll know. And you're going to make this little like figure 8. You can see that there. And you're going to hold your thumb down over the stitch and you're going to pull your thread through. You can see that right there. Now you're going to take the back of your needle and go under that left hand arm of the stitch that you can see there. And you're going to take your needle, pull it through, and it makes this little cute little stitch. Now you're ready to make the next one, and we're going to take another bite to the right. Do the same thing. You want to take the same size bite. You're going to wrap front to back, pull your needle through, and make the stitch. Got a little bit of a knot there. And you're going to do the same thing. Back your needle under that left-hand arm. You're stitching close to the applique. And I'll speed up the video so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, so now we're going to do the twisted fly stitch on the top of this leaf. And I'm still using the same thread and my chenille 18 needle. And we're going to come up from the back on one side of the leaf. And then we're going to take a little bite or a little stitch diagonally straight across, but at a diagonal. And you notice that I'm not going to put my working thread behind my needle, not like the fly stitch. So you don't want to pull it completely tight because you're going to take the back of your needle and you're going to weave it from the top to the bottom. And when it does that, it makes a little twist. Okay? So then you're going to do that all the way down the center of the leaf. So I'll speed up the video so you can finish this leaf. Okay, let's start the couching part of this leaf, and we're going to use our EZM 108 pearl cotton, and we're just going to couch those big arms down a little bit. And this is a great thread. It's one of my favorites. You're going to switch to a chenille 24 needle, and we're just going to couch down those arms in place, and then we'll move on to the next leaf. Here is leaf number 4, and I'm doing a simple chain stitch on top of the leaf at the edge. I'm doing some sorbello stitches in the center and some running stitches and French knots and a simple back stitch around the edge. Let's start with the chain stitch, and I'm using EZM 108. It's couch potato. I used it before in the last leaf, and this is a size 8. I'm using a chenille 24 needle, and we're going to start at one side, and I'm going to bring my thread, my needle and thread, up to the top of my work, and I'm going to follow the edge of this leaf, just close to the edge. And I'm coming up to the top. I'm going to take a little bite, and you want to make sure that you go back down in the same hole of that emerging thread when you're making the chain so it looks nice. And you want to practice making your stitches a little bit on the small side. Your chain stitches look much neater if you keep them a little bit smaller. So try to practice stitching little chain stitches. So the next stitch we're going to do is the sorbello stitch. I'm not going to go into great detail on this stitch because I have a whole YouTube video on the sorbello stitch. It's actually a lot of fun, and I love making it in a bigger size thread. So I would just go over to that particular tutorial if you want an in-depth tutorial on the sorbello stitch. Here, I'm just going to speed up the video and just show you how I make the stitch. So here I'm going to finish off this leaf. I'm going to do a row of running stitches and alternating those with French knots. And I'm going to let you see how I do that. I'll speed up the video. I'm also going to do a back stitch around the leaf itself in the background, just to kind of pull it all together. Thanks for watching this really long video. I know it's 25 minutes. There's a lot to cover here. Hopefully I can do one of these each month, and we will highlight each leaf that's done weekly for that entire month. And we'll see you next time.